Let's make our own solar panels, huh? You're going to need your solar cells. They're 3 by 6 inches. They're very fragile. You don't want to touch them with your fingers on the surface. I usually just grab them by the sides. I've got some gloves here that I use when I need to use them. They're really frustrating. It makes it hard to pick things up, so I don't normally use them. But I've made quite a few already over here that I've gotten confident enough not to touch them with my fingers, and I've learned how to handle them, and I'm sure you will too if you go ahead and start dealing with this many. But I got a pack of 45 here. I'm going to use 42. What you want to do, I lay them down on this piece of cardboard that came with them as a cushion. So when I push down with either this marker, which I'll tell you about in a second, or with the soldering iron, if I'm putting pressure on it, I don't want them to crack because they're so fragile. And I've told somebody who asked, how fragile are they? Just imagine if a piece of paper would shatter as it bent. And they're about as thin as paper, and they feel like they're about to break every time you touch it. And they do break. I've broke a couple already. Look at this one here. Yep, that's not good. I tested it with a voltmeter and it still put out the rated amount of volts. It's probably got a 10% loss of wattage due to that break. So I'm pretty sad about it. You got to be very careful. Very, very careful. They're very fragile. It's ridiculous. So you're going to need that marker that I was just telling you about. It's a flux pen, and it helps the solder. All right, come on, focus, camera. Okay, camera doesn't want to focus. It came with the kit. It came with the cells. Also, I'll go ahead and explain real quick. Well, I'll tell you what this does. This helps the solder stick to the solar cell. That's not actual metal. There's some kind of, I didn't really get into a whole lot of studying of what these are made out of, how they're made. I know it's some kind of crystal, man-made crystal, and I don't know what that white line is. It's, it can be scratched off if you scratch it. It's not metallic. It's got to be conductive. I don't know exactly what it is though. But I know if you take this marker and you spread a line down it, I'll do it real quick. Oh, there we go. Make sure you do both. Well, I got the marker out. I'll show you the other side. This side is the negative terminals. Those two white lines that I just colored are the terminals. Negative. These white squares on the back are positive. There's 6 of them. You're going to want to put your flux on there too. I haven't experimented with too little or too much flux. I just put it on there and I've had pretty good luck. Solder seems to stick pretty decent. And again, you want to be really careful not to touch the surface. You can't, if you get a fingerprint on there, you're not going to be able to wipe it off. You'll break it trying to wipe it off. So you just can't touch it. I grab it by the sides, and I think I might have 1 or 2 fingerprints out of those 21 that I just showed you. So what else comes with the kit? This spool, which had this wire on it, and it's flat. I think it's about 1/8 of an inch wide, and you cut it into 6-inch strips, and then you'll solder it on. Here's one panel already, or one cell. I already soldered the tabs. They're called. It's called tabbing wire. You solder it on there. Also with the kit. Where's the box? Here it is. This is the bus wire, and I'll show you this when I get done with the panel. It's not going to be used in the beginning. This when I go to put this on, I'll be just about finished building the panel. It's how you set your cells up in a series or parallel circuit when you're done. All right, so that's the quick introduction. I need to have somebody hold the camera for me to do the next part. But basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a bead of solder down these white lines here. And then I'm going to stick one of my 6-inch strips to it. And I'm going to get a drop of solder. Basically I'm just going to smear that drop nice and slow down the tabbing wire. And I'm going to go slow so that it heats up the solder that's underneath from the bead that I ran down here. And you'll get the tabbing wire to stick on both sides. I don't know if my phone's going to want to focus on this because it's so shiny and it's trying to pick up. Let me turn this light off. It's just not showing. I just can't get my camera to focus on that. But let me get Chelsea to hold this camera and I'll show you me in soldering action here. So I'm getting ready to solder it. Got Chelsea to hold the camera for me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get a little bit of solder on the end of my iron here. Just a little bit. And I'm going to spread it down that white line. Spread, 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 spread. Just smearing it down. It just pushes it down. I need more. It's just a little bit at a time. You don't want big glops on there. I mean, if you're looking at it, you're really not even going to see the layer that I'm putting on there from like a measurement of a millimeter or anything serious. I'm literally just spreading it down as thin as I possibly can. You don't want to have any bulky drops. Otherwise, when you lay your tabbing wire down, you're going to have, it's going to rest uneven along the surface of the cell. Okay, now that I got it on there, I'm going to take my little tabbing wire, try to straighten it out best I can. It's a little curved from when it was on the spool. Don't have to be perfect. I'm going to put it on the, I don't want it overlapping. You don't want it hanging off the edge of your cell. You just want it at the top, probably a millimeter or two away from the very top. And I'm going to just tack it real quick. Hold on, it's tacking in the wrong spot. So this is where the gloves would come in handy. You would be able to touch it and hold it to the cell better, but there. All right, I've got it tacked. I'm going to get a little bit of solder on my gun. We'll push it down. Remember that solder that I just put on the cell? It's holding it in place now. I'm just going to run this. Remember, I still have about a drop of solder still on the iron. Reason being, it'll help conduct heat while you spread this. The solder underneath your tabbing wire is adhering it. Now I know you can't see it, but I see a little piece right here that didn't stick. So I'm just going to go back over it nice and slow. And I'm going to go back up just to make sure it's stuck. Grab another tabbing wire that you had cut out. See this one? It's not even perfectly straight. Get a little bit of solder on your iron. Tack it. I'm going to flip it over. Sometimes it takes a little bit more solder to make it stick. Maybe because I didn't get enough flux in that area. Alright. We're ready to rock and roll. Get my drop of solder going. I'm just going to run it down nice and slow. Make sure your tabbing wire straightens out as it goes. Mine was a little crooked just now. I'm using my thumb on the end of the tabbing wire to push it. Now it's on there. I'm going to run it back just to make it smooth. Done. Now you're going to want to do this to six of these cells, and I'll show you why and what we'll do next here in a bit. I'm not going to videotape me doing this 6 times. So I'm going to go. I got 6 of the cells done. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The next step is you're going to take one of your cells and flip it over. Remember, I was telling you the top is negative, bottom is positive. And you're going to take your flux pen. I've already done it. I've spread my flux on each of these 6 squares. What we're going to do next is connect it in a series, which is positive, negative, and it's going to look something like this. Now all you're going to do is solder 6 points. There's no need to pre-solder the squares like I was doing on the front side. So I'm gonna get me some solder real quick, and I'm just gonna and this is difficult to do with one hand on the camera. Let's see if I can do it. If not, I'll delete this video and have Chelsea do another one for me. Alright, it's stuck. Now I'm going to do the other side. You're going to want to keep about a 1/4 inch of gap in between these 2 cells. I don't like the way that one's stuck. Hold on. I'm going to do it a little bit better. Oh yeah, this is annoying. Here. Use a soda bottle to hold my phone for me. No? Yep, there it goes. Alright, so what I do is I just put my thumb on there, get a little pressure. The wire is kind of curved still. It's wanting to bend up and pull away. Alright, so you're going to want to do this to all 6 of the squares here that are on the back. Trying to do this without getting my hand in the way of the phone, or the camera, I'm sorry. Phone, camera, it's both the same. Imagine you can't see right now anyhow, the angle of the camera. But you're just going to go ahead, do all 6 of these on the back, and we're going to actually connect all 6 cells in the same manner in a series, essentially going positive, negative, which is going to increase your voltage. So if each cell is 0.5 volts, 6 in a series is going to give you 3 volts. So here's our 2. There we go. Oh, look at that. It just sprung off. Alright, I'm going to have to reheat that. So, you're just going to continue to take your cells. This will be next. Flip it over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hit those points and continue on, so forth, until you have all of them put together. I'm going to go ahead and do that now, and I'm going to fix this tabbing wire that decided it didn't want to stay connected. I have all 6 of them done. Now what you got to do is prepare a 7th one. Get your flux going on the white lines on the negative side. Get your flux on the positive side. Flip it over. We're not going to tab the negative side of this just yet. I'll show you why. Oops, I'm sorry, I was pointing the camera the wrong way. Alright, so I've got this 7th one. I'm going to put it on here. I'm going to go ahead and secure these tabs. See, I broke the corner of this one. Right there. I barely touched it and it just flaked right off. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and secure these and show you what we're going to do with it after that. Alright, so I got it on there. Next step, take one of your 6-inch tabbing wires and cut it in half. About 3 inches. And what we need to do is have at least, or approximate, 1/2 inch hanging off of the edge of the tab, or the edge of the cell on this end. This end, it'll just barely be touching the white pad. Okay? So, I'm going to go ahead and get me some solder going here. I'm going to pin this down. Dang thing moved on me. So this end is going to be your positive end, right? Again, 1/2 inch hanging off the end, approximate, and then the very end of it should just barely reach the white pad. I did a couple of these that were short, and I just ran a bead of solder to make sure it would reach from the white pad to the end of the tab that I'd made. So if you didn't get it exactly perfect in half, you'll be alright. Alright. Well, hold on. It's not alright. It's not. Also notice I put my gloves on. That was so that I can handle it better. Alright, once you get that on there, you're gonna take your cells, flip it over. You should have one cell on the end, the other end. This is your negative side. They're white. You're going to need to go ahead and run your bead on this side like we did the others. Just get you some solder, just a drop, spread it down. Alright, I'm going to do this side. It's being a pain. I think I may need a new soldering iron soon. I'll let this turn on, and I think the heating element is going. I left it turned on for 2 days. I didn't just leave the room. I left the room and didn't come back. Alright. I'm actually surprised it's still burning. Okay, now again, you're going to take one of your 6-inch tabs and cut it in half. Get yourself a 3-inch section. And again, you're going to want to have approximately 1/2 inch hanging off the edge. Just like this. How much easier that was for me now that I'm wearing gloves and I can put my finger on it and press it down. It's amazing how simple things can be when you follow instructions. Alright. Almost done. Alright, now you're going to notice that your little 3-inch strip ain't going to reach all the way to the end of the white strip. But what I did was I just extended the tab by using another bead of solder to make it a little bit longer. I'm going to do the other side now over here. Again, 1/2 inch hanging off. I'm sorry, my hands are in the way. You can't see. I'll show you when I'm done though. Oh shoot, I thought I cracked it. I rest my pinky on there and it breaks so easy. Alright, this thing's being difficult right now. Just give me a second. Alright, there it goes. I didn't want to lay flat. I tacked it down kind of sideways. Alright. Spreading down my drop. And put a little bit more solder on here. Okay. Now, you've got your negative terminals. That's what these little tabs are. You got your positive terminals. They're coming from the underside. And what you do is you will lay it down and you're going to connect these in a series. See this side, the tabs are coming from the bottom, so that's the positive side. Here's my broken cell. I might pull that off and replace it. But if you see your tabs are on top, that's negative. My little copper rod, I've been using that for experimenting the voltages. See, this tab is coming out from the bottom. Notice the two tabs are close to touching but not touching. Because it's coming from the bottom, it's positive. Here's your negative. So what you're going to do is, you've got negative on this side, positive, negative to positive, positive to negative, negative to positive, and on that side will be your negative. That way you're increasing voltage each time. With what I've got out here, each strip is 3.5 voltage. So when I'm done, ultimately I'm going to end up with 21 volts. So I'm going to go ahead and put all the rest of these cells together and have everything set up. The next step is to run the bus bar, which is going to be this thicker ribbon that came in the kit. And we're going to use that to finish this series. I was using this rod, so you're going to connect these positive leads to these negative leads. And you're going to use that bus bar to do it. Real quick, I just got back from Lowe's. Here's what I decided to use for the casing of the solar panels. I got some aluminum angles. I got the smallest that I could get. These were about $2 a piece. These are I used the small ones for the top and the bottom. And if you'll notice, for the sides, one of these angles is longer than the other, and that'll be the side where I can bolt in and put in a 45-degree angle kickstand if I need to, or however I decide to mount this to a roof, or if it's going to be pole mounted, I'll be able to use this. It'll be long enough for me to bolt another bracket to it. So I got two of those, one for the left, one for the right. And then, of course, like I just showed you, I got these guys for the top and bottom. These ones here were $5 each. These small ones here were $2 each. So they're not too expensive. I got acrylic for the cover. Nothing special. Just don't ever use any cleaning material, chemicals to it. You'll discolor it. As long as you just use water and probably like hand soap or maybe Dawn. I have to look it up. But use like oatmeal soap or something to clean the dust and pollen or whatever that collects on there. Shouldn't harm it too much. And then I got 1/4-inch plywood. I wanted to go really light. I don't want these to be very heavy. I want to be able to move them around. So I went with a pretty cheap sheet of plywood. I think the plywood was $8. The acrylic was the most. It was 25 bucks plus tax or whatever. And then liquid nail. That's what I'm going to use to put it all together. It's pretty sturdy stuff. I've used it. So, yep. I'll show you guys how I plan to put it together when time comes. So I got them all done, and I know I said I was going to do the bus line next, but I thought about it, and I think I'm going to cut my board, glue the cells to the board, then run the bus wire. This white board here, I just put that on there so that I could lay the cells out and easily remove them from my plywood, which is what I'm going to be using. I laid them out. I left a 1/2 inch at the top. I left a little bit of gap in there, maybe about an 1/8 inch in between the cells vertically. It just made sense because we did it horizontally too. So when they're glued down, I'm leaving enough space so that they look like this. Then I left a 1/2 inch at the bottom, drew my line. I'm going to go cut that off real quick, and then I'm going to start gluing these cells on there. See, this is why I used that white board, so that I could just easily pull them off without disturbing them a whole lot. It wasn't big enough. See that? I got two rows left over. But I'm going to go ahead and pull them off, take my board, go cut it, and then I'll show you how I'm planning on gluing them. Okay, I got 3 rows already glued down. Pretty happy with how they turned out. I'm going to go ahead and do the 4th one now and show you how I did it. So I made sure I had 1/2 inch all the way around the edge. Notice that my tabs are going to come to the edge. Well, not all the way to the edge, but they hang over a little bit. And that's good. That's what we want. So I chose to use liquid nails because it was only $2. And I've used this stuff for a lot of other projects. It's really strong, and it's surprisingly cheap. Elmer's paper glue isn't even as cheap as this stuff here. It's really great. So I'm going to use this, and all I'm going to do is put some. The first row that I didn't put enough. The bead was real skinny, and because of the cells are kind of curved a little, it wasn't enough to stick to the wood. It didn't make contact. Alright. Let me plug it. Where's my plug? Here it is. Alright. Now, we're still working on our circuit in this series. So, on this end, we have negative hanging off. And then this side is positive. And then this is negative. So this side is going to be positive. Now I'm going to flip this over, and I'm going to glue it down, just like I did these other 3. What I was using to weigh it down was I got these 2 hardback textbooks that I don't need anymore for school anyhow. I've already read them. I ain't reading them again. I sit them on top, and then I put 1 battery on each book, and it provides weight that pushes them down so they get nice and flat. So you can notice those 3 rows that I put down already. They're nice and flat. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to finish gluing this one, and I got 2 more rows over here. I'm going to get them over here on the board. That one that's broken, I'm going to go ahead and pull that off of there. I have 2 cells left over from my order that my package that I ordered, and they're fine. There's no reason for me to leave a broken cell on here if I've got a good one. So I'm going to go ahead and desolder that, pull that bad boy off of there, put a new one on. Then I'll glue those on here, and I'll do the tabbing, and I'll show you how, or not the tabbing, but the bus bar, and I'll show you how I plan on doing that. Alright, while I'm waiting for that to dry, I went ahead and I put a bus bar right here, which is the first one I did. I just measured it from mia to mia, cut it, soldered the 2 points. I drilled a hole through the wood, and I ran this wire up through there. The end of the wire was stripped. I soldered it to the bottom of the bus bar. It's my negative point. So they're on top. Current's going to go through and through and through. I'm going to make more bus bars, and I'll record that later on. Alright, I'm going to do a video real quick just to show you how fragile these things are. This is the one that I was telling you that was broken, and I had to pull it off. And just to show you guys, effortlessly it crumbles. I barely have to touch it. Yeah, be careful. So the last row is gluing right now. I got a little bit impatient, so I started doing the tabs. Of course, bus wire. I keep saying tabs. I did that one. So the current's going to come down here, go down that bus wire, come down these cells, hit that bus wire, come down these cells. I need another bus wire here. It'll come down. A bus wire here. It'll go down. And then there's the row underneath. It'll come down. And then this will be my positive bus wire. Same way I did that one over there on the end. Just connecting those two for the negative line. I'm going to do the same thing here, except it'll be positive, and my red wire will come down here. So for my wires, I went through my little connectors collection, and I think these would be the best. It's just a male and female connector that fit inside of each other. Let's see if this camera will focus any better. And when they're together, the connection is protected from the weather. So I think those are what I'll use. Those are the only 4 I have. I don't know. I probably won't use that on every panel that I make. Just this first one. Alright. I'm going to go ahead and finish running these bus bars. I think I'll do this one real quick. Let me get set up, and I'll do this bus bar right here while that is still drying, and I'll show you how I'm doing it. Here we go. I went and measured this bus bar. I cut it out. I flattened all of the bumps out of it. When it came off that little spool, it had a lot of bumps. So I'm just going to rest it here and slide it underneath the tabs. I want the tabs on top so I could see them. There. Now you'll notice some of these tabs, like this one, are a little longer, and this one's a little longer, and that's fine. I'm not worried about it at all. All I'm worried about is a connection, and a very good one, the best possible connection I can get. That's what I'm worried about. So I'm going to go ahead and get my iron, get my solder. Oh, this tube's about gone. Go ahead and get some solder on my iron. And I'm going to solder these points. Sorry if my hand's in the way. I just need to hold it still. This is the positive that I'm soldering right now. This next side here is the negative. I want some more on this one. I didn't like how it held. There. Sometimes it likes to give me trouble. Sometimes they tack down nice and easy. It's fine with me. I've been taking my time with every step. Alright, so positive, negative, negative to positive, positive, negative. Yep, now I'm going to do one more from here to here, and then the other end, which you can't see, it's under the books. I'll do one on that side and one on this side. I'll be done. I'm going to run my red wire, and I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done with all that. So I went ahead and did the red bus bar. As you can see, it's still drying. I didn't get to do that back side yet. It's still under the books. But I did the same thing. Soldered my wire, drilled a hole, pushed the wire through the board. Now, what comes with your, or what should come with your kit, is a diode. If you don't know what diodes do, they regulate the flow of current. There's a strip on this diode. Trying to get it to where you can see it. It's gray on this one. Wow, video camera just does not focus. You can kind of see it. There we go. It's got a gray strip. Use that as an arrow. I also left the red tag. This side, where my fingers are at, it was a white tag. I already pulled it off. The red tag signifies direction of current. So imagine this being an arrow. Electricity will flow this way through the diode. From here to here. Electricity cannot go backwards through a diode. This is very important because you do not want electricity, you do not want current to go back into your solar cells. You'll pop them all. You'll burn them all out. So this is the gatekeeper right here. This is going to ensure that no current goes back through your circuit. And like I said, just pay attention to that stripe. It's going to point away from your red wire because you want current to go this way and through here, and then it'll go to the battery charger that's imaginary. It's not here yet. I don't have it. It's coming. I'm going to go ahead and use a barrel connector here. Hold on, I need two hands for this. I'm just going to slip that sleeve on there, this barrel connector, in one end. I'm going to put the red wire in the other, and I'm going to crimp it down, and I'm going to do the same for this side over here. Use another barrel connector, crimp it, put a wire in, hang it out the end. I chose this barrel connector again because it can protect the connection from the elements when it's sitting outside on the roof or on a pole or wherever I decide to put it. Alright, I'll show you again when I'm done. Alright, so I got all the bus bars on there. This last row is finally glued down, and it's time for me to apply one bead of glue all the way around the edge, and I'm going to glue down the plexiglass. I'm going to go around real quick. I think I had some dust from when I cut my board. Alright. So just try to stick to the edge of the board as much as possible. If you get some on the bus bars, that's fine. It's non-conductive, so if you get some on the bus bar, it's not going to steal any of the current away from the solar cells. So I'm going to go ahead and finish all this and then resume when it's ready to put on the top. Alright, so I got all the glue on the edge. I'm going to place my plexiglass. Hopefully I don't mess this all up. If I do, you'll never know because I'll delete the video. Haha.
How about you turn that light off?
I'm not letting go of this.
Okay.
Turn the light off. Okay, maybe I will. Was it bothering the reflection, bothering the camera?
Definitely.
Alright.
Well, the window is also.
Okay, so I got it on there. I see that it's not touching all the way around. So next, I already cut out my brackets, and I'm going to place these on here, and I'm going to use self-tapping screws to do so. I'm going to go ahead and get prepared to do that next step, and then I'll turn the video back on. So I was afraid that the gluing idea wasn't going to work, and my contingency plan was to just use these self-tapping screws, put it through there, and it's going through the aluminum, the plexiglass, and the wood. I used 1/2 inch, and they just barely started to come through, and I would stop drilling. I didn't torque it down, I just put it on there. What we don't want to do is cause so much pressure and sandwich those cells and cause them to crack, because the beads of solder and the tabs are thicker than the cell. So if you go torquing down on the side, you're going to bust that cell off right there and it'll crack. I did it once already on accident. Where's the cell? I don't even know if you can see it. I did it on accident. I barely touched it. It's this one here. You can't really see it, but I can see it when I get close enough. I put a hairline crack in it, probably about from here to here. When it was gluing, I seen that it was poking up, so I decided I was just going to tap it down a little bit. Yeah, right. Bad idea. It cracked. So I'm going to go ahead. I put 2 on already. 1 in the middle, 1 on each corner. Here's the side, boom, boom. I'm going to go and do the other 2 sides, and then I'm going to have to RTV everything now, because I can't trust that glue that I put on there, and we cannot let any vapor or any water or anything get inside of this panel. So that was my reasoning for gluing it. I was thinking that if I did a thick enough bead, the glue would seal it off, but it's not going to work. If I put any thicker of a bead, it's really going to spill over, like right here in this corner. See that glue spilling onto my panel? I don't like that. I didn't want that to happen. So if I went with a thicker bead, it would happen all the way around. And I think the best idea is just to continue what I just showed you. Put these self-tapping screws in there, and then just RTV the heck out of it. I'm just going to run a bead of RTV all the way around the edge on the corners. I already RTV'd the diode, also the connector. That way no water can get in there and it's completely sealed tight. Of course I did the negative wire too. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and finish this up, and I'm also going to RTV the corners, or the seams, and then I'll show you the finished product when I'm done. Quick, I just ran into a problem. Middle of this side, there's a bus bar right where I want to put my screw. I want to put my screw right here, and I can't. If I put that screw through there and I make contact with that bus bar, I just grounded that whole bar to the cells. So I'm just going to simply go just above that bus bar to right here. It's not dead center. My OCD is just going to have to deal with it. But I wanted to explain what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, and make sure nobody else does it. Make sure you do not drill through any of these bus bars on the other side that we just put on there. I plan to RTV this. I used gray high torque RTV. Why? Because I had some already. I bet you could use any. You may even be able to use bathroom caulk or anything that you think would be better than going out and buying some RTV gray, which is overpowered for this task. But It's like I said, I've already got it. It was in the garage, brand new, probably been sitting there a year, and I'm going to put it to use on this project. What I did was I took white painter's tape and I moved it about 1/16 of an inch away from the edge, and I'm just going to put some RTV on my finger. I'm going to smear it down in there, down that crack, and I'm going to pull the tape off and it'll look nice and pretty. I did that side, and reason being, I didn't do the tape the bottom yet because of the corner here. If I put tape here, there'd be a small section where I wouldn't be able to get any RTV without removing the tape. So I'm just going to wait, do the long sides first, then I'll do the short sides, then I'll flip it over, do the back. Make sure you hit every point where the screw popped through the wood on the back. Also the corners, and I may even do some RTV around each screw head just to make sure. I really don't want any water in there. You don't want anything to get inside. This thing needs to be sealed off. Once it's done, you'll never be able to get inside to dry out any of the vapors or any moisture that gets inside. Alright, I'm going to finish this off. Got all the RTV on the back side now. It's all done. It's all sealed up. I got it outside. I'm going to spray paint the back of it to seal the wood. I'm just using what I had laying around again. I had some Rust-Oleum. It says it's flat protective enamel. Should seal this wood pretty good, I'd say. If it don't, then I'll just use something else if I see that it stops working. But I imagine it'll be a few years. And then after I spray this on, I'm going to conduct my first test. I'm excited. Alright, so I'm getting 20 volts right now. And if you see, there's all kinds of water on the inside of there already. See it all? Look at all that condensation. It must have been humid inside of my house when I put this together. So that's not cool. I was hitting 22 volts until that condensation started up. Now I'm down to 20. And if I move this over to the 10 amps fused slot, take it down here to 10 amps, and I'm getting 3.46 amps. So that's going to come out to roughly 75 watts. I'd have to use a calculator, but it's going to be pretty close to what I projected it to be. I'm just really disappointed about that condensation because it's all sealed up and there's just no way to let it out. Disappointing. Lessons learned. I would say use the RTV on the other side, or if you're using some other kind of silicone or bathroom caulk, put it on the brackets before placing them down and bolting them. It would go faster than smearing all that on with your finger. Also, I'm probably going to do on the next one, do 3 sides, top, sides, bottom, and then leave the top open. Bring it outside, sit it in the sun, let any moisture that's condensating in there come out and escape before doing the top. So I probably will end up pulling the top off, letting all that moisture out, which is going to be a giant pain in the rear end, but it just might have to be done. Or maybe I'll just do a small puncture hole in the top, let all that stuff out of there, and then fill it in with RTV, which will look ghetto, but it's ruining it's actually, I lost 2 voltage points just from that building up in there. Alright, well, the next video I do will be showing the battery charger as well as the inverter in place. One more real quick note, I'm convinced that moisture is coming from the wood. That is all.